My name's Veronika. I'm a second year psychology student. What I like about psychology at Sussex is that you've got a really diverse kind of range of subjects. So we've got statistics, which kind of more maths. We've got biological, social psychology. So I think that's really good. Well, in a typical week, I'd have about 12 lessons. So that would be about, say, 8 lectures and 2 seminars, 2 practicals. So in practical, we'll do an experiment that we have to write about later. And the rest of the time, just spend in the library or at home just doing work. I always go to the library because I find it kind of more easy to focus. Well, a typical lecture would kind of give you a broad overview of the topic that you then have to read up about in more detail later on by yourself. And usually they'll have lecture slides, so you can always access them on the internet later and kind of revisit the material. Or recently they've started to do Sounds Direct, which will be on Study Direct, which is really useful for revision and just if you miss a lecture or anything like that, it's good to be able to hear it again. Well, we have seminars as in most other courses, but I think unique to psychology, we have practicals. And in practical, we'll just do experiments that are usually designed by faculty members, but that we later write up in a lab report. So, for example, we'll do, how pictures can influence your mood and then the effect of that on memory. Or, in every course we have practicals almost, so it'll be quite varied. But it's good to kind of see psychology and practice and what an experiment would actually be like, both from the kind of point of view of the participant and from the experimenter. Statistics is definitely an important part of psychology. It's a course that we have every term and in every year. And I personally, a lot of people kind of find it a bit scary, but I think that's kind of the main problem with it, is that people see it as maths and kind of think, oh, they couldn't do it at school, so they won't be able to do it. But if you kind of think of it as something that is just a tool for analysing your data and you can actually see how it's being used, then I find it a lot easier to actually learn and understand than it did in school. And also we have tutorials every week where they actually take you through it step by step, and you have a lot of help available if you really do struggle with it. So Study Direct is used as an online kind of support page. So it'll have the lecture slides on it, the recordings, some kind of readings for seminars or general readings that your lecturers want you to see. And also for every course there's a forum, an open forum which everyone in the course can access, and people will post questions about, for example, a specific essay question or more kind of general things or to do with organisation of the course. And it's quite useful because obviously everyone can see it and the peers answer your questions, but then also the course conveners check the forum and see if there's any unanswered questions or wrongly answered questions, and then they'll answer it, and it's really useful. And I always check it, if I'm writing an essay, I'll always look at the forum and see if there's something that I might have not understood or something that someone's mentioned that might be really important or something. Well, we'll usually be doing research for an essay, for example, so it's important to use a wide kind of variety of sources because we usually have different theories. So usually you'll read up on all of them and maybe then later focus on one, but you still need to know them all. And when you're reading, it's really important to take notes because otherwise it might just kind of go completely past you. Well, I think making notes helps you. I kind of summarise a bit or kind of put up important, I'll put an extra kind of point for something important or something, a thought that I've had upon reading it. And I think it's important because firstly you kind of concentrate more on the text because you're reading it more in depth. And secondly, if you're, I don't know, preparing for a seminar, you can like just before the seminar look at your notes and have like a quick summary rather than having to read the entire thing again, or for revision as well. It's quite good to have that. So the main kind of source that we use in psychology are journal articles, because, well, I think all the important journal articles are like subscribed to by the university, so they're all online. So it's important that you kind of learn how to access those sources fairly early on. To access the journals, you can either use the library website, which has a specific electronic resource list, and there's also, in first year, at the beginning, you can take like a library tour and they'll explain how to use the online sources as well. Or you can use Google Scholar, which is quite useful. And if you still don't understand, you can always ask your tutor or something, and they're always happy to help. Well, the purpose of a practical report, I mean, later on, if you do go into psychology, you'll always, about every study, you'll be writing a report that will be published in a paper. So the point of it is, well, firstly to inform others, obviously, so that they can, well, kind of gain the knowledge that you've discovered, or also so people can replicate your study. So that's why one of the most important things in a lab report is to be really, really precise and really specific about everything that you did. So I think that's the main kind of thing about how to do well, is be quite petty in your own kind of writing. And yeah, I mean, you've always got like a clear structure. So some people find it easier to write than essays because you've got like your instruction, method, results, discussion, and so forth. So essays are kind of less structured. So you'll have one general question. At the moment, I'm writing one about whether non-maternal care in the first year of life affects your relationship with your mother. So then I'll be looking at like different theories, what people have said about it. So it's the kind of more focused on critical thinking about what the people might have done wrong in their kind of study or wrong conclusions that they made. And yeah, essays are kind of more about your own thoughts, whereas lab reports are kind of just stating what you did and what the implications are of it. I think critical thinking is about, like, even though they're kind of scientific journals, not to take them as like an authority. For example, when you're looking at a paper and like criticising it, you can have things like, are the conclusions from the statistics valid? So you'll have to, I mean, obviously we're not going to have like that high level of statistics, but we do know some things where you can look it up and see if the conclusions drawn are valid, or did they use enough participants? Did they all have the same conditions? I think the most important thing, especially for psychology, because all your exams are in the summer, is to really go along with the reading and looking at lecture notes and everything, so you don't kind of have everything to revise at the end. Because I think a lot of people, including me, made that mistake in first year, that you kind of thought, oh, it's only not until summer, and then suddenly it's like, oh, yeah. With feedback on essays, you'll get it back on the cover sheet. There'll be kind of a general comment, and it's quite varied. But they're trying to make it so that you'll have, the marker will have specific sections. For example, the style or originality, and like different sections that they mark you on, which will make up your overall mark. And they also comment on your writing, like throughout the text, not just on the cover sheet. And this feedback is now all meant to go online, so that you can kind of follow back all your feedback throughout your course and see if there's like one mistake that you keep making and kind of change that. So that's quite useful, I think. With feedback on essays, for it to be really useful kind of for future, you have to just kind of keep looking through it and especially search for things that you've done again and again. For example, if you haven't referenced properly, that's kind of an easy way to lose marks, but also an easy way to gain marks because it really is quite simple once you learn how to do it. And in psychology it is really important. We have like specific guidelines, but once you learn it, which is not hard, then you kind of get those marks every time. There's a psychology society as well. They kind of put on socials, for example, which is quite good to get to know other people on your course. But it's also they organise talks from people that which is interesting, kind of additional to your lecture material. I'm an international student from Germany, and most of my friends are English because I lived not in the international flats, but just in the other area. But if you do want to get to know people from your own country, for example, or just other international students, the International Society put on a lot of really good events, like for example like trips to other parts of England, or just having an international food night where everyone brings a dish from their country, and they have a lot of really, really good events, and also just to get to know people and kind of maybe feel more at home.